why is it important to them to be successful in real estate? For some people, it's all about money. And that's okay because you can do great things with money. For some people, it's helping people in decision that is one of the biggest ones a lot of people make in their life, to buy a house or sell a house.
If you're a residential real estate agent earning $200,000 a year and you want to grow your passive income, this show's for you. Learn the secrets other agents use and hear from experts in our field in order to guide you along your journey to investing in assets like apartment communities so that you can turn your commissions into cash flow. I'm Randall DeCleared. Let's go, baby. All right, welcome back. I am continuing a conversation with some top producers. We've been talking and you've been following along with a lot of the conversations that I've been having with top producers from around the country. And today is no different. I have Ben Nemec with me today. He's a top producer with KW Huntsville. He runs a team there, Team Nemec, and it's a solid conversation. We talk about his investing strategy and it's on point. It is like for who he is and the strategy that he employs. It is in line with everything that I've been talking about. So pay attention to that. We talk about how he has created certain content very specific to his area and how you can do it too. So it's a solid conversation. Ben's a great guy, and I hope you enjoy the conversation just as much as I did. As always, if you're getting value out of the show, that's what we're aiming for. Please go on, rate and review. 5-star review helps us big time with the reach. And before we jump into the show with Ben, here's a quick word from our sponsors. We're proud to be sponsored by Ridgeline Investment Group. Ridgeline has a track record of transacting more than $53 million in assets throughout Texas. Ridgeline is currently looking to acquire 100 to 200 unit Class B multifamily communities between 5 and 20 million in San Antonio, Temple, Waco, Tyler, and other Texas secondary markets. To learn more about Ridgeline Investment Group, visit www.ridgelineig.com. Ben, welcome to the show. It's good to have you on. Thanks for joining me today. I wanted to jump in. Why don't you just tell us what market you're in and really the type of clientele that you focus on or the type of houses that you're selling?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. These are always fun. So I'm in the Huntsville, Alabama market and Keller Williams office, leading a small team. Aside from me, 3 other licensed agents. We have an administrative assistant and a part-time social media person that handles that whole side of things. Regarding what our market is and kind of maybe our average price point, we're sitting right around $350,000 average sales price here in Madison County, which is where Huntsville is. And our average is a little higher than that. It's closer to $400,000 per transaction, which is great. Here, it's becoming harder and harder to find a house that is livable for less than $300,000 within Madison County, which is growing immensely. To find something that's livable in good condition in a decent area, and when I say decent, I don't mean anything by that, just a desirable area. It's very hard to find something good under $300,000, which even 5 years ago, that number was probably $175,000. So like many places, the appreciation during the COVID years and even since then, we're not as steep on appreciation right now this year to date, but it's still going up despite these interest rates and other current events.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so 350 is that median, and that's for your market median sale price that we said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where's the luxury market start in your market?
Yeah, well, luxury is different to everybody, right? So I would say it's 800 and up here.
Okay.
And that gets you a more custom level home in a more exclusive neighborhood, perhaps a gated community, maybe not. And yeah, that's luxury here. And we do have multi-million-dollar homes here.
Yeah.
Those are harder to sell because people with that kind of money here usually want to do their own thing, their own statement of wealth. So
got it. Okay. It's interesting. You were talking about harder to find properties that are livable under 300. I mean, I'm in San Antonio, and as I was telling you a minute ago, I've been just buying and flipping for the longest time. And even, 5 years ago, we'd be buying flips, $50,000, $75,000, $100,000.
Right.
And now, I get these properties that I used to buy, dating myself, but way back in the day for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 now are like $125 is like the minimum. And so, yeah, they've gone up, and especially in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So do you think in your market, Is it being driven, like that lower end is being driven by investors, or it's something else that's driving the prices up?
It's just supply and demand.
Yeah.
Incredible demand here. I know a lot of people think Space Camp when they hear Huntsville. NASA has a huge contingent here, but also just Department of Defense, space and missile defense are two huge areas of business here. And we're getting a lot of like distribution centers now. And we also have a tech contingent. And so I've actually heard people refer to us in the last couple of years as we're kind of becoming a little Austin, Texas. Nothing like the vibe of Austin. I get to go to Austin every year for a national conference and I love it there. It's a very different feel here. It does feel way smaller because it is, but we have some of those companies gravitating towards here because the cost of living is so much lower. It's easier to attract talent. Taxes are much lower, property taxes, things like that. So anyway, it's growing for those reasons. And we also have a huge Army base here, Redstone Arsenal, that actually, funny enough, the majority of the people that work on that base, there's something like 30,000 people every day that work on that, I believe. The majority of those are civilians. They're not even military. And also, we're the new FBI administrative headquarters in the process of moving all their people from Northern Virginia to here, some of them kicking and screaming, but they're about halfway done with that, is my understanding. There's a lot happening here in different areas. A lot of it is government related.
That's what I was telling you a minute ago. I keep getting a lot of multifamily deal flow coming from the Alabama area, and I didn't know what was driving it. So that's interesting to know.
When you say that, do you mean opportunities to invest in projects here or?
The actual deals that brokers are bringing to market. So sellers are listing their 50 to 200 unit apartment complex, and there has been a steady flow of those. More so than I see in San Antonio or some of the markets here in Texas.
Yeah. I've heard some of those guys are in a little bit of hot water because a lot of those guys float their interest rates and they've only floated up. And is that true? Is that what you're seeing?
That's a generalized yes. Some have. I mean, there are some headlines in the news about some guys out of Houston who took on, I don't know, like $1 billion worth of properties and just like had to send them all back.
Sure.
So yeah, absolutely. That is definitely happening. But it's just like anything. I mean, there are certain operators who only take fixed debt. They don't really care about interest rates.
Sure.
Not IRR driven. So yeah, it just depends on how you structure it. And there are some guys who will only do floating. They still think it's a good hedge right now to do floating debt on some of their deals.
Mm-hmm.
And so it also depends on how you structure it. It's just like, think of it as single family. If you're going out and you're rehabbing a house and you're getting hard money on a deal, which is essentially what some of those bridge loans are for commercial properties, you're looking to be in and out of those deals in short order, and the interest rates don't really affect you. And so what's happening now is on the back end, if you have a bridge loan and you are trying to refinance or sell that property, then your numbers may not make sense because on the commercial side, obviously, the actual cash flows that you're getting from that deal, if the value of the property is dropped because interest rates have gone up because no one can get the loan for it,
right,
then that's when you're really stuck. It's not like a comp from down the street that's still selling for $425,000. You know, it's like the value of the property has dropped because the rates, no one wants to buy it because the rates are so high. So
right.
Anyway, I don't know if I digress, but
yeah.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about your team. So again, one of the things that I always like to talk about are what you're doing now that's winning you business, because it is a tightened market. The demand is still very high, just like a lot of brokers that I talk to around the country. Demand's very high. Supply is constrained. So what are you doing to win those limited number of deals that are actually transacting that could help other agents that are listening?
Well, on the buy side, we just have some great buyer's agents. I mean, they go after business and they don't stop until they get it. And it's so important to have people on your team. If you're in real estate or other businesses, find people that are motivated and your life will be much easier. So that's on the buy side. I represent very few buyers just kind of moving to focus on listings. So on the listing side, I have noticed there's much more competition for every listing appointment that I go on. And so I've never been one to toot my own horn or enjoy doing that or brag about anything. Having said that, if I know who I'm competing with when I go into that appointment, I can pull up their stats. And most of the time, we've done more volume in the last 24 months than those other agents. We have a great online presence. Okay. So people can check us out beforehand. And I ask them to do that actually. So we go in and we already have some rapport with them because they've read nearly 100 Google reviews that are 5-star ratings from people that have worked directly with us and all the intricacies of their deals. And they were selling their family home and we did a great job or whatever it is. So there's so many pieces to winning business in real estate right now. And the digital presence is huge. So we do focus on that.
All right. So there's a number of things in there that I want to unpack.
Yeah.
You talk about the reviews. I want to know how you go about getting them, but let me try to remember all the things. So the reviews, you had a buyer's agents who are tenacious and continue to go after. So I want to kind of understand what they are actually doing or how you're motivating them or how they stay motivated themselves. And then we'll start with those two. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll see if I get to the other one. But yeah, how are you going about getting those? Like, what are the tactics, I guess, that you're using to get those reviews?
Yeah, reviews are an interesting thing. You often hear that people go on and they review businesses when they're upset, oftentimes. And this is easier said than done, but you can't let them get upset. Things are going to happen in the transaction that selling a house is stressful, buying a house is stressful. It is just a stressful thing. And having done hundreds and hundreds of deals, thankfully, we kind of know what can come up. And so we prepare people for that. So hopefully before they encounter something difficult, they know it was a possibility to begin with. And we hunt for a solution. And we try to take as much load off of them as we can. We can't control what people go out and buy between contract and closing and affect their debt to income. We can warn them ahead of time. Don't do that.
Coach them on it. Yeah.
And so there's some things that are out of our control. A lot of things within the transaction we can be proactive about. And so striving to create a good experience for someone, whether they're buying or selling, ultimately gets us the opportunity to ask for a 5-star review on Google. And right now, Google's where we focus. It's obviously what most people use. It's the front runner in digital searching, and that and YouTube we really try to focus on. But review specific, it's just a good feeling at the end of a transaction to know that when I ask for that review, and oftentimes it comes in an email before we even ask. Thank you for treating us like family. I got that email recently, and that was about one of my buyer's agents. And I said, man, thanks for saying that. That means a lot. Can you click this link and put it on Google for us?
Yeah.
So we strive to get every review we can because we know that every single one we get could result in another opportunity to meet someone that wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate.
Yeah. All right. Before you get to the buyer's agents side, you just touched on it again, and something that I want to highlight. It sounds to me like you try to answer a lot of questions, educate ahead of time with some of the content and some of the things that you either put on your website or even conversations like this that you have, so that there aren't questions. You can almost have the rebuttal already out there in the ether, so that if somebody is researching you and it's between you and someone else, you've got the answers already out there.
Right.
Oh, like what's going to happen here? What's going to happen there? So that you eliminate a lot of the questions that could come up or the concerns that somebody may have. So I think that's a great tip. I think that's something that if you aren't doing, you need to be doing. And I guess speak to that a little bit. Do you have content, or have you sat down and thought about, here are the 5-10 things that I get the most kickback on from buyers or sellers? And here's a specific piece of content I've created because of that. Have you ever thought of that or done that?
Yeah. So we do have a YouTube channel, and it is a work in progress. Okay. I started several years ago producing more professional videos with a local digital marketing firm here in town. And those got a lot of views, and they were really drive around with influencers in Huntsville, people that hold positions in local government or own a successful small business here in town, people that are interesting and other people want to watch. Why do you live where you live? Things like that. It is more into conglomeration of things, buyer tips, seller tips. I do hope eventually to one day have a bank of videos that explains the entire process if somebody wants to go through that. I have noticed that many people find us on YouTube and they watch those things, and then they say, oh yeah, after we get into a transaction with them, they often make a comment, oh yeah, I saw your video about that. So that happens sometimes, not as much as I would like, obviously,
But you never know. That's the point. I mean, you never know how many people, and you may be helping people who end up not using you, but I would say that the opportunity that you're creating by putting yourself in that position to answer the question that somebody may type into Google and it pops up your video compared to someone else's.
Yeah.
How to get an inspection done? What should I do at an inspection in Huntsville? You know, it's like, boom, you're there. it's another good like tip and strategy that you can use. And I love the fact that you went out and you found influencers in your area.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome tip, because you're tapping into their market, you're tapping into their reach. And yeah, it's just brilliant. So
Keller Williams sometimes gets a lot of heat for their adages and things. And there is some value to certain things. And a saying that's often repeated here in our office and internationally within the company is come from contribution. And that is something that anyone can apply no matter what they do. And you will get rewarded from that. And that's kind of my goal in any video that I do, is to bring something to the table. Somebody can learn something about real estate that they didn't know before.
yeah, it's awesome.
And so just to close out the video piece.
Yeah, provide value. I joke about it because like you don't get paid to podcast really. It's like kind of it's just here because I like to have the conversations and provide some value. That's the whole idea. So yeah, good for you. So let's jump in real fast on the buyer's agent side. I want to touch on it just briefly. Like, are there things that you're doing that are motivating them? Do you have kind of the nuts and bolts, or is it just like, hey guys, go get them? You know, you only make money if you go sell something.
Yeah. Something I did not plan on getting into when I got my real estate license 10 years ago was people managing. Okay.
Yeah.
We have a lot of engineers in this town. And what I often hear from them when they go to companies like Boeing and Northrop Grumman and things like that, they go in with a technical education, thinking they're going to do a specific thing and exercise their technical prowess, when without a doubt, a couple of years into their job at these large corporations, they're managing 10, 15, 20, hundreds of people. And I hear that so much. And now it's true. I don't manage hundreds of people, but just managing people, their emotions, I have the opportunity to build them up or tear them down. And I have had to educate myself on leadership. I never intended to get into that role. I've loved it. I'm not great at it. I'm working every day. Positivity and just instilling that in the team is such a big deal. I mean, you can either wake up and be positive, or you can wake up and be negative, and great things come to positivity.
Yeah.
So that's half the battle. Seriously, the technical part of a transaction and what to do, that's easy. That's just comes from experience. And I'm so fortunate to have had a mentor early on. My mother-in-law got me into this business, and she taught me a lot. And I've grown the business since then. But those foundational elements I still use every day. And I'm able to mentor and teach the team those things too.
So again, like what keeps them motivated though? Are you doing anything specific on that front? I know Keller Williams, I didn't know where you were going with the Keller Williams comment a minute ago, but I laughed because when I had new agents coming to me, when I had just started my brokerage, and I was like, go to Keller Williams. They're going to train you. Come back. If you make it through, come back. But yeah, is there something specific that either KW does or that you do within your team to keep them out there and like hustling?
Well, another Keller Williams adage is, what's your big why? Why are you doing this? And it's different for every person. And you really have to find out. And we go through the career visioning process to find that out before we bring somebody onto the team. And why is it important to them to be successful in real estate? For some people, it's all about money. And that's okay, because you can do great things with money. For some people, it's literally helping people in a decision that is one of the biggest ones a lot of people make in their life, to buy a house or sell a house. Okay. So knowing what their motivation is and why they're doing this and why they wanted to join our team is a huge part of it. And then I can kind of tailor my coaching to them on that. And we hire a private business coach as well, real estate specific. So things that fall through the cracks with me, they pick up with our coach.
So you provide that to your team?
I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, very helpful.
I do, because I know that they're not getting everything they need from just one person.
Yeah.
So to have different points of view, different outlooks is important. And I'm human. I get discouraged too. And some days I'm not the best leader.
Yeah.
So to have that backup is huge.
Yeah. Very humble. Staying humble.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So you've got a team. I'd be curious to know, do you or does anyone on your team buy real estate?
I do. And I do it in a much different way than I hear all of the big guys talk about doing it on the podcasts.
Let's hear it.
Well, I don't leverage
Okay.
for rental properties. Okay. So the only debt we have is our personal home. And I know that's not the way to do it on a big scale. I would love to retire and just have rental house income with no leverage, nobody to pay off, and build it kind of slowly.
Yeah.
Rather than just acquire tons of debt, and there's positives to debt. I've heard, rich dad, poor dad. I have heard all that stuff, and I love to listen. I love to listen to people talk about that stuff and how they do things. This is just what works for us. And so we have bought 3 rental properties, have since sold one of those, did a 1031 exchange. And so right now I own 2. They're both occupied. One's a townhouse, one's a single family house. Had a multifamily first, and that was multiple headaches. And, I'm limited in my experience with that, but that was my experience for one. So,
okay. So you bought, what did you 1031 into? Did you trade that house into one of the ones you currently own?
Yes, the townhouse. For a short time, I owned 3, but sold one. Actually sold the multifamily to buy townhome that my family lived in for a year while we renovated our current house. And we just recently moved out of that townhome and leased it. So
nice. Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. So I want to touch on that then, because taking on debt to acquire property is a huge pitch that you hear all the time. Here's why, you're going to get this interest deduction. You're going to have this and that, Let someone else pay your mortgage down over time. I'm very curious. I think I know the answer, but why are you not taking on debt for those properties?
Yeah, just helps me sleep at night.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the big things I talk about, and if you've been listening for a while, I go through them, what are your goals? What are you capable of buying right now? What's your cash flow? Are you positive, negative? And then obviously risk tolerance is a big one. And so if you want to sleep at night, or if your risk tolerance is very low, like it sounds like yours is, then pay all cash.
Right.
And then you've got this asset that's sitting there that is paying you. Mm-hmm. Your cash flow is going to go up.
Right.
On a dollar amount, on a percentage basis for the dollars you invested, it's much lower.
Right.
Doesn't matter though, if you're comfortable and you're happy and you sleep at night and all of those things.
Right.
So it's very good that you know that about yourself.
Yeah.
And go out, listen to a guru and take on, $1 million worth of debt, and then you wouldn't sleep.
Yeah.
You seem like a fairly mellow guy. You seem pretty.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I say sleep at night. Look, the interest rate landscape is much different, especially for an investor now than it was 3 years ago. And we bought our first rental property about 3 years ago, and rates then for an investor were, I think, around 4.
Yeah.
And so compare it to what it is today, it's really nothing, right? It's not bad at all. I just would rather not owe people.
Yeah.
It's just a personal preference of mine. It's not because I think it's a better way to do it. I know I could own more, especially long-term, if I leveraged more. It's just a personal preference. And I also sometimes feel that leveraging a bunch of properties may give me a false sense of security. I own 30 single-family houses. Well, I don't really. The bank owns those, but my name's on it, right? And so my risk exposure is high. Potential return or reward is very high, not for a while though. And so again, it's just a personal preference thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I applaud the guys that load up the debt and reap the rewards down the road. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is 100% your personal desires and where you are in your investing cycle. I mean, I put debt on a lot of things, but I also like to be very secure. I own a lot of my notes that I've owner financed, or the properties that I've owner financed. I own those houses free and clear. And it's just I don't want a tenant in there. It's even less risk to me because I don't have to go and change a toilet, or I don't have to do this or that. And so, yeah, it is a personal preference. It's where you are in your finances and so many other things that are factored into it. But yeah, that's a good story. So what about on your team? Do you do anything with the agents on your team? Are you guys ever talking about investments? Do you explain to them what you're doing?
Yeah, we have the opportunity to help a lot of investors that invest in Huntsville, and most of them are from other places in the country.
Okay.
I have not entered into any investment projects with teammates, not yet at least, but we do get to work with a lot of investors. And so walking through that process with my buyer agents is huge. They have to understand, maybe they don't invest in real estate themselves. Maybe they're not there yet. They have to understand what's important to an investor.
Yeah.
What are they looking for? How the numbers need to work to make sense. And so by the end of 1 or 2 investor deals, they got it down and they know what to look for.
That's a great piece of advice, I think, because I've never thought of it in this way. But if you're an agent and you are thinking about investing, we're in such unique positions where we get to see so many different deals and transactions go through completely risk-free.
Yep.
Absolutely risk-free. But you can go out, and if you don't have investors that you work with right now, go out and start getting clients who are investors work specifically with them, if you have to give up some of your commission even to win that business, it would be worth it so that you then can see transactions happen start to finish without having to risk your own capital.
Yep.
Man, that's a great idea. And then you can just mimic that and go out and start buying property on your own or getting into investments. Very similar on the commercial side. It's like getting involved, buying a deal. On the brokerage side, you can de-risk it again. If you're brokering some of these transactions, obviously there's a barrier to entry to getting into those deals and winning the business. But yeah, it's a almost risk-free way to educate yourself. It's like,
yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So curious, again, we were talking a minute ago about the market. What are you guys seeing like in the next, either for the brokerage side or even your investing side? What are you seeing in the next year? You know, what are you guys focused on? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah. So on the team, we are seeing these interest rates definitely play a role in inventory, and very few people are selling right now in Huntsville unless they absolutely have to move and they're moving to another market. Those are the sellers we're seeing. And there's always a group of people that are looking to buy here because there's so many people moving here.
Yeah.
We also have a ton of apartment complexes going up. And it's hard for me to know how that's playing a role in buyer demand on the sale side. We see literally cranes everywhere. Okay. Huge apartment complexes going up here everywhere you look. And sometimes multiple different projects in one place. And those guys, you're in that space, you know, they don't do that without knowing there's a demand for it. So that tells me that they know they're at least going to get enough occupancy to make those numbers work. Okay. While I see a huge housing inventory issue, and really the only inventory we have sitting on the market is some higher priced new construction that sits, and they're offering incentives left and right to get people off the fence because of these high interest rates. But the resale market is really tight right now.
Yeah. Have you seen builders pull back and just sell off inventory they currently had, like spec homes they had, or is it still a lot of new construction going on?
There's still a lot of new construction going on. I have noticed a shift in average price point of those.
Okay.
So they have had to, during COVID, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 new construction was flying off the shelves. And now they're having to restructure their whole subdivision model and their target market, because now we're really sub 400 is where it's at for new construction, because often it's on the outskirts of town. And so, yes, I've seen builders pull back from a target market standpoint.
Yeah, that's happening here too. A lot of guys just shut down their neighborhoods or selling off infill lots in some of their neighborhoods. It's been slow. I'm just curious on the apartment side then. So when you're underwriting a deal for new construction for the apartments, I mean, it takes place 2 years before those apartments actually come online.
Yeah.
And so there is a lot of inventory that's coming online.
Yeah.
And so to your point, they wouldn't be building those if there weren't demand drivers and new population growth happening in your market.
Yeah.
That said, their rents that they were projecting are probably not the same today as they were 2 years ago when they underwrote that deal. So that's going to pull down the rental rates from their highs.
Right.
Still going to be higher than they were probably 3 years ago, but not as high as most. That's what I'm seeing mostly.
Yeah. Well, and do those guys know that when their project starts, there's going to be 20 other similar projects starting? Do they know that?
Typically, yeah.
Okay.
You're looking at permits and you're looking at new construction sites. Most of the big developers are taking that into account.
Right.
I'm sure there are some small shops that just got set up because there was cheap money and everybody could go out and raise capital very easily that are maybe caught in a position that they shouldn't be in. But a lot of the big developers are definitely taking that into account. So,
yeah.
Well, look, we are getting to the end. I don't want to keep you. And so typically, I just want to ask a couple questions not related to real estate. So what's your favorite pastime? What do you work into? It sounded like you were an endurance enthusiast. Is that accurate?
I do. I love a good Sufferfest.
Nice.
We're here in Huntsville. We're at the foothills of the Appalachians. And so here we call them mountains to someone who actually lives in the mountains. They're not mountains, but you can get a good climb in here, whether you're on a mountain bike, road bike, on foot. We have Montesano State Park here. If you've never been and you come to the area, absolutely must visit. Some great trails for running, hiking, whatever you want to do, mountain biking.
You got a lot of lakes there?
So Lake Gunnersville is probably the most popular. It was rated, I don't know if it still is, the number one bass fishing lake in America or something like that. And so there's a lot of tourism associated with Lake Gunnersville.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so you like doing that. What's the best thing that's happened to you or your family in the last couple of months?
Yeah, man. Family time is huge for me. I love spending time with my wife and kids and taking vacations and trips with them. They're right now, my wife's name is Katie. We've been married for a little over 12 years. And my kids are 9, 7, and 6. So they're still all at an age where they actually want to be around us.
Yeah.
And so it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. My son just turned 6 and my daughter just turned 3. They're a month apart, but yeah, they're good ages. 6-year-old still likes to snug and do some things, but
oh yeah,
not sure when that stops.
Yeah. We just finished summer swim league time. And so summer swimming here at local neighborhood pools is a big deal. People take it very seriously. And so this was the first year that all 3 of our kids were competing, and it was a blast. I'm a swimmer, swam in college some, in high school. So it's a joy for me to be able to watch them do that and love it.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Family of fish. Yeah. My daughter's big into swimming. My son, he likes being in the water, but he's like, just put me in the water. I don't need to swim around.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, Ben, it was good having you on. I appreciate you sharing your insights, man. If anybody's in that market and want to reach out to you, your contact information's in the show notes.
Yeah.
By all means, please do so. Reach out to them.
Yeah.
Good conversation. We'll catch up soon. All right.
Thank you. Yeah. Enjoyed it.
Awesome.
Surprisingly, most of the agents we speak with got into real estate hoping to gain passive income and become work optional. However, only 1 in 5 ever start investing. Most are simply too afraid to start. Once you get educated by listening to this show, you'll be able to overcome that fear and become the 1 in 5 who are finding financial freedom. Don't miss a single episode. If you want to stay up to date, the best way is to make sure you're subscribed. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and do it now. And we'll catch you on the next episode.